Hello, I'm Styleboy and welcome to my world. Ooh, yeah! Tried to make it a bit more camp, a bit more fun, but I don't know if it worked or not. And welcome to the beginning of Autism Acceptance Month. Fellow autistics, how you doing? It's our time to shine, honey. That's why I'm wearing red, because I thought it would be fitting for the first week. And basically for this whole entire month, I will be making autism dedicated content. And honey, I am so excited for it. I love making autistic content. And obviously this is a part of my identity I'm super proud of and I want to discuss and celebrate and talk about. And this is like such a good way for me to do so. So I'm honestly so excited. And we are starting off with the iconic, the most legendary series on my channel, which is being gay and autistic. I know I think I did this last year at the end, but this time I want to do it at the beginning. And this time I really want to talk about the idea of acceptance within the LGBTQ+ community, and particularly about something that I've experienced recently within like an exhibition that I went to. And I kind of want to just talk about it because I know that there are a lot of queer autistics. I see the comments, queer autistics, hey, you're obviously safe here. And I obviously know this discussion about acceptance and about inclusion of autistic people and neurodivergent people within different communities doesn't just apply obviously for autistic people. Oh my god, no. Hi, it's editing me here. I feel like you're gonna see a lot of my face during this video, so bye, get used to it. But I just wanted to kind of touch on some things before we start. So the first thing is, I end up talking a lot about the topic of acceptance in general, which I'm honestly really happy with. Like, honestly, I'm so proud of. But I talk about how acceptance is needed for not just autism within the LGBTQ+ community, but I also talk about it within just autistic and neurodivergent people, and I talk about it as queerness still needs to be accepted in our society. So I kind of broaden the topic a little bit, and obviously there's so much more acceptance that needs to be around for like POC, disabilities, trans people, non-binary people of different religions, etc, etc. I'm just mainly touching on today my experience as an autistic queer man because that's my lived experiences. And number two, I do very much switch between like autistic and neurodivergent because I do also realize that a lot of my neurodivergent folks will also relate to this, because I do realize, I think all my videos was in my infantilization one. Some people with ADHD ended up watching it and relating to it. So I kind of wanted to broaden it a little bit further for those who are watching it so they don't feel invalidated. And also I just ramble a lot. So like, I really like it. I like the way that I just felt free to speak. So this is going to be a little bit more different than usual, but just enjoy the show, that's all I have to say. If you are looking forward to the videos, obviously subscribe and make sure you have the bell so you already know when I'm gonna upload the next week. This is gonna be such a fun time. And without further ado, let's begin with the video. So, about the exhibition, so the context behind why I want to speak about this. Recently, I went to an exhibition. It's not on anymore. I actually tried to vlog it because I was gonna be like, oh my god, cute self-care day, and then I just ended up being uncomfortable the whole entire time on this thing, so Basically, I went to an exhibition at the Barbican that was called Out and About, and it was about like the history of the LGBTQ+ community, and obviously like uncle recommended it to me, and I was like, yeah, like I really want to go, let's go and experience this. So I went. I felt very mixed emotions going through it. So I remember feeling like, wow, there's a lot of people here. I remember feeling it was quite busy. I felt a little bit overwhelmed at point. There was like a moment of guilt as well, and then there was a moment that I was just kind of sitting there. I was like, well, I feel not included, especially going through it. And then I kind of sat there and we had like this chat with this woman, and she was speaking about like the work that she's done for the community as she is part of it. I remember there was like one point, I don't know if I have a footage of it, but they listed off like every single community because they wanted to make everyone feel included, so that there was this like running list of different identities going from like religious identities such as like Jewish and Islam to racial identities such as like Black and Asian, and they put like disability, but I kind of saw nowhere like neurodiversity. And even going to the exhibition, I also kind of noticed it was very cramped, it was very crowded, it was quite intense. I don't know, I guess there was a part of me that felt really excluded in a way from this whole exhibition and this whole thing. And I don't know if other queer autistic people feel this, but I definitely do, where I felt like I was not part of the community at that moment. And I think I really felt it, especially then. Because sometimes I'm like, oh my god, it's just like my insecurities talking. And I do believe there is a part of it which is still insecurities, but I often feel like sometimes that because of being autistic, I feel very excluded. That was just one key example of it. This isn't just like the first time I felt that. I think there's many other times where like, especially as an autistic person, like you feel excluded from the community. So like another example is that to meet other queer people, a lot of it does require like clubbing and bars and stuff like that. And granted, I am starting to get slowly more comfortable with those environments, but it still is hard. And granted, I've never been to a club. I don't know if I'll enjoy it or not because I love concerts. Like, I adore concerts so much. But then again, I also hate busy environments like that. And standing at concerts is the closest I've ever been to, and that was quite a lot. I guess in that way, it can make it quite intimidating for a lot of autistic people and a lot of neurodivergent people, because we know that environment's already stressful enough to deal with. Loud music, bright lights, crowded people environment. It can sometimes just lead us to sensory overload. So that's another way that it can feel quite exclusionary, because it's like, then what events are we able to go to? Like, what is actually there for us? I used to feel this a lot more. Now I kind of don't, which I'm very glad. And I think I have mentioned that feeling of like not feeling part of either. Like, I was too gay, quotation marks, because it's like a stereotype. Like, I'm too gay to be autistic, but I'm too autistic to be gay. And it's just like, what the fuck? Oftentimes, the stereotypes that we have in our head are not actually reality. This is why, like, the best tip you can honestly do is follow autistic accounts, particularly ones who are not just autistic, but like who are maybe autistic women or autistic queer people or autistic people of color, or even like dual disabilities as well. I think all are completely valid, because A, it is a form of media that we see often, probably one of the most often, to be honest. With your Instagrams and with your social media, you can really create it to make yourself feel seen and included and heard. And I feel like that's so important, and that's definitely made me feel a lot more comfortable, not even comfortable, but made me feel a lot more seen. I can't deny. And I think that's maybe another reason why I wanted to do these videos, because I know that feeling of not being seen, and it's kind of shit. And I think especially when you go to certain things and they don't include you, again, it's just, you feel forgotten, and you always just feel like a background, right? There's already not much on us. There's already not a lot of representation of autistic people. There's more representation of queer people as we become more accepting of queer people, which is brilliant. Oh my god, like, I'm so glad. But the thing is, it's like, with both, you just feel very left out at times. I don't know, like, I do. Again, especially with that exhibition, I just felt like a background character for everyone else's main story. And it's just so frustrating. My story deserves to be told. Like, I deserve to be shown in these exhibitions, but of course I'm not. And even like within the world, I feel like there's not that much to see about us, if that makes sense. Not even within like, oh my god, just like TV and thingy, but like, there's no specific exhibitions to celebrate our identity or to celebrate our history, the autistic community or neurodivergent community, that's what I mean. There's not really many things to do that are specifically catered towards neurodivergent people. Like, there's not even like loads of events to meet other neurodivergent people. Like, I'm really thinking about it, and there's not loads. Or not those that are like publicly made aware. And the only time there are ever like events that are to do with autistic people, it's often centered around education, and it's not often for autistic people, it's about autistic people and about autistic children, which is a little bit frustrating because it kind of goes a little bit back towards the idea that autism is only for kids, and as you grow up, it's just like, deal with it, which is just frustrating. Even if there is events for autistic people, it's for a younger age demographic, not really for an older age demographic. So do you get what I mean? There's not really much out there for us to see to show us being represented or even celebrated. And because of that, it just, again, it puts you at that background stage character. Obviously, if society is treating you like this, of course other communities will. I love seeing other identities being celebrated and enjoyed. Oh my god, it's such a beautiful thing. Like seeing black movies, ending up winning Oscars, or LGBTQ plus movies, and just relating to them so dearly. Like, again, it's so incredible. I just wish we had the same space for autistic and neurodivergent people. Me again, hi. I did speak about this point in the video, but I feel like I can do this a little bit better. And one thing why we need acceptance for both parts is basically through education. Like, I remember when I was in school and for PSHE in general, we didn't really learn about either topic. Like, we didn't really learn about the LGBTQ plus community. Like, we did one PSHE lesson, and It wasn't even a full lesson. It was like a little quote going like, everyone is different and that's okay. Like, bitch, what the fuck does that do for me? I didn't learn a thing about autism. Like, I got diagnosed when I was 11. I learned like the basics and then that's all. And particularly when you're going through like teenagehood, it can be quite isolating. You're trying to go through a journey of self-discovery, and while online does help, it's still really just lonely. I didn't really discover like guys until I was like 15, and then it was all by myself. Like, no one really there to talk to, no one really there to like have his guidance, which again is just so isolating. And then even now, luckily, thank goodness for autism, like there's the autistic community online, which has been so helpful for me. But it does make you feel really shitty, and again puts you in that background character thingy, because it's like, well, if both aren't being taught about at school, then why should I be heard? Like I said, like, our stories deserve to be told. So it's just like, as a queer autistic person, it's like I just feel really alone and isolated. I haven't felt seen, or I haven't felt represented. I've had a lot of like bad talk, and again, I don't know if any other queer autistic people can relate, but you feel very like neglected to the point where you start to blame yourself. And that's shit, because you should not be doing that. And I have to remember that. Like, literally, what was it, like last week when I posted like my first video back, I was having a really down time. Like, something happened and I just was feeling shitty, and I started to blame myself. I started to blame being autistic. I don't like that. I really don't. It's just so much of a challenge to kind of navigate doing both and being both. I think that is honestly the struggle, and this is why we need acceptance. It's also just so we're not feeling excluded constantly. So our needs aren't constantly seen as like something that's belittled or something that's seen as something less. I can't tell you the amount of times I go through stuff and I just say something and I feel nervous for saying it. I'm a burden on someone for just saying like, hey, I need this, or hey, can we do something else? Like, I get so nervous sometimes for like saying my own accommodations in case I am a burden, which is not true. And that's really tough. I know so many people who wouldn't, but based on like my own personal experiences, like I have felt like that, and I have felt like an outsider because of just stating my needs. To feel accepted within both communities is so fucking challenging. That's why I think this month is so needed for autistics, because again, it's not just awareness. Like, people know what it is. They do. It's just that, are people willing to actually accept us into the society that we live in? Are they willing to make us feel wanted and seen and accepted? Or are they going to put us as the back burner? Are they going to make us feel secondary constantly because of who we are? I don't know what this video is going. It's sometimes really tough. I know I started off the video being like, oh, why we need acceptance in the LGBTQ+ community, but I feel like it's more trickled down to why we need acceptance generally. Another reason why we need acceptance, so when we talk about autism, it doesn't feel like a freaking weird thing. I've definitely noticed this a bit, and it's so frustrating. And I remember at the beginning of the year, I think we had to talk about like what our culture is. And for me, obviously, like a big part of my culture is my autism. Obviously, there's like being half Greek, half Italian. There's obviously a lot to do with my queerness, but a lot of it is to do with my autism as well, and being autistic. And I remember just talking about it, and it was just crickets. It was just silence. And that's really tough sometimes, especially when you are nervous to even talk about it to new people. But of course, when it comes to another person's idea, everyone's like, oh my god, this is amazing. Obviously, I do understand that, like, okay, it's the first day, or like the first couple of days, like people are nervous, etc, etc. I completely get that. But it's almost, again, like everyone else was so open and speaking to other people about their ideas. And when I brought the idea of autism into the conversation, it was just silence. And it's awkward. This doesn't just happen in that discussion. I've had other situations where even if I speak about autism, people, they look bored or not interested, and I'm like, am I boring for you? Like, excuse me. Even if they don't mean it, and even if it's because they don't know a lot, like, I understand the situation, I completely get that. Sometimes it being silent, or sometimes you giving the impression it's boring, it almost like shows like, hey, so like this part of you is just pointless. Like, this is a part of your life and it will always be part of your life, but we don't care about it. It's like, we don't really care. It's like, whatever. And it's like, no, like, this is a huge part of my life, and there is gonna be things that, because I'm autistic, will lead into other stuff and will lead to different accommodations. And you just seeming bored or that you're not interested really just makes me feel invalidated as an autistic person completely, and that my identity is nothing to you, which is so frustrating. It's that added layer of like non-acceptance and exclusion because of the little things. It is just a lot of the time like mentally draining. So, and that's why I just think we need acceptance in this world. We do, we honestly do. I feel like acceptance is so crucial. And the last point of why I think we need acceptance, before I suggest some things that will hopefully help neurodivergent people, queer autistic people, is the ableism and the homophobia. Both are still very prominent, which is sad, and both I have definitely experienced. Online I've experienced ableism, and in person I've experienced ableism. Like, there's a whole video here. Especially recently, I think there was a comment that I experienced which was hella ableist, and it really made me think about things, and it's like, really? Like, you really think this? Oh, the hatred. And then homophobia, I've dealt with quite a bit of that. It's frustrating when you go through that kind of like hurt and pain. I wish we didn't have to go through that pain. So that's why I was like, we do need acceptance in general. I feel like this has been quite a low tough video, so I'm gonna do this for you. Is this bringing up the mood? Is this making it more fun? You're bouncing with me? Let's give some things to help. I definitely think there are ways to help, and I'm definitely gonna incorporate some of these too with myself. Tips to help. 1, following autistic people, queer people, and autistic queer people on social media. Honestly, your life will be changed. I exaggerate, but like, it does really help to make you feel seen and heard. Like, it does make the difference. Like, I cannot tell you how much following people who are like you makes so much of the world. And also people who aren't like you. I didn't really explain this. So this basically means, let's just say you want to follow some queer people, but you don't just follow autistic queer people, you follow non-binary people, you follow trans people, you follow queer women, black queer people, etc, etc. And the same with autistic. You don't just follow queer autistic people, you follow autistic women, autistic trans people, autistic black people, autistic POC, etc, etc. The reason why I feel like this helps is because you can see a wider community, which is brilliant. You definitely do not feel like you're on your own, and there's like a wide variety of people, but also that you learn about different things, about different identities, about different communities, and that way you can become a better human. So basically it's a win-win situation, and who wouldn't want that? It then makes you feel like, okay, so this community is made for everyone, not just for this like stereotype. Honestly, I find it so helpful. Like, that's why I think social media, while sometimes it can be toxic, I think in this case it can be really validating. And you don't know, you could even make a friend on social media from that, and I think that's really good. And tip number 2, obviously autistic friends do help. Obviously I'm still trying to look for some autistic queer friends, especially do help, but it does make you feel really seen and very heard. Like, I have one, even speaking to him, it does make me feel more validated and more comfortable, a little bit more of my identity, and I do think it does help. And the third one, autistic queer events, if there's any. I've never actually researched, and I've never been to any, and I actually would really like to. At least one, right? I think it'd be really cool just to kind of go, see what it's like, or just queer events in general. I would like to, especially because this month is so involved, and this month is to do with autism acceptance. I feel like it would be amazing to see autistic queer people and be like, hey, I'm not the only one. It does make you just feel mutually accepted, and even then you could learn even more about yourself and make more friends and make yourself feel seen. When you are feeling like you're not included or accepted, reminders you should remind yourself is that media representation does not represent you. Specialized interests, get back into them. If you have friends who are part of one community or the other community, talk to them. I'm pretty sure they'll be going through the same thing, or they'll at least listen to you, and especially if they're good friends with you, they should. And just remember, we're all on this journey together. We're all still learning, and especially with autistic community, you're not alone. You have us, and we're here for you. That was the end of the video. I wasn't expected to take that turn, but I kind of love it. If you did enjoy this video, please thumbs up, and obviously subscribe, hit the notification bell, so next week you are instantly updated about the next video. And I shall see you guys next week with another autism video. Bye!